Hello again. Hopefully folks can hear me as I try to adjust things a little bit. I can never quite get the positioning of this iPad right, but that's okay. So welcome to another edition of what is probably the least interesting thing on the YouTubes, the Do Nothing Project. I am your guest host, Andrew Lenards. I am again filling in for Jeff Warren. As Jeff would say if he were here, we like to keep our expectations low. So, I don't know. There's something in me wants to say something about keeping the comedy fresh, but that's an old David Letterman joke about the Ed Sullivan Theater being cold. So yeah, welcome. What we have on tap is nothing. Hopefully that's what you're looking for. Leonardo seems very excited about that. Thank you, Meg. It's always nice to be welcomed by folks. So, as I mentioned before, Jeff's family, the Warren family, has moved abodes in Toronto. And hello, Angie. Oh my gosh, so great to see Angie as well, and everybody, Marjorie, Alexita, Mitch. Hello again, Emily and Fred, of course. I think there's probably some folks. Gabriella, I didn't say hi to. Cashew, of course. Patrick, Phyllis, Courtney, Jennifer. How could I not say hi to Jennifer? Athena, Linda. Tina, welcome back, of course. Zabone, also in Arizona. I think I saw Peggy is in Scottsdale, so that's in Arizona. For those that don't know, I am broadcasting to you live from Tucson, Arizona, in the 520. The latest edition of the continental United States, part of the Gadsden Purchase back in 1849, I think. So yeah, so I was talking about Jeff really quickly. So they've moved, and in the moving, that's disrupted routines for him and for his son. And so instead of Jeff pushing and pushing against that and trying to sort of assert that we're gonna have me fill in for this week and then possibly the next 2 weeks. For those also up in Canada know that Canadian Thanksgiving is coming up on the 10th. So it's also a very busy time for folks. And so in the guise of maybe let's not push really hard on this, let's back off, and I have room in my schedule to fill in, and all of you are great and kind and amazing community members. So I think you'll be okay, hopefully, with me being the guide for the next couple weeks. But in lieu of not having the Do Nothing Project, I am your guide for tonight. So not having a guide, or I think I compare well to not having a guided meditation. So I feel good about that. And then as folks come in, if you'll share in chat, because I know a couple times there's a few people that'll pop in, and Jeff not being here, there's concern, as folks are very caring about things. So everything is okay with Jeff and fam, but it's right now we're just trying to find a little bit of that schedule for things, and so I'm going to play around a little bit with that as seeing if seeing if we can notice in our meditation when we're pushing on something, and if we don't need to push on it, can we back off? And again, just noticing that we're pressing or pushing or sort of leaning into something is sort of the magic. That's a bit of the long game. You don't have to do anything with that. You don't have to judge it good or bad or otherwise. Just noticing when we're doing that. And so that's what we'll be doing. So again, if you haven't been here before, I am not your normal guide. I am the guest host tonight, and welcome. So we'll have 25 minutes. That will be 5 minutes at the end for a sort of cultivating friendliness or loving kindness practice or positivity. Nurture positivity is how Shinzen will frame that. So that's where we're headed. Trying to think of anything else. I don't know if we have a moderator tonight, so hopefully I will try to kind of keep an eye out just in case. And yeah, Paul, I'm becoming the semi-normal guy. I jokingly say that I'm sort of Joan Rivers to Jeff's Johnny Carson, and so. But yeah, I'm gonna be the regular guy actually for a couple weeks, so that'll be interesting. I'm again super honored to be the regular guy. So it's one of the few times I can say I'm a regular guy. All right, so dad jokes aside, 25 minutes on the clock. A big hearty dose of nothing available for us. And my bell will make sure I don't blow everybody out with that. All right. So as we begin, we're just looking to settle in. In some of the early meditation instructions, there's a emphasis on taking a comfortable seat. And sometimes we forget about the comfortable part of that instruction. So we endeavor to be upright but not uptight. So we're not trying to be straining or overly efforting. And then all four of the postures are all equally valid and spiritual. So if you're sitting on a chair, you're sitting on a cushion, you're lying down, you're standing, maybe you're even walking somewhere in a nice sleepy neighborhood, tree-lined. All of those are totally valid. And we're just taking a posture that supports our time together for the next 24-ish minutes. And in doing that, we know that our meditation posture might sort of fall out of alignment, and just noticing that and seeing if we can get back to that upright and not uptight. And if you're lying down, you can kind of bring an upright vibe to your lying down. And after we've established our posture, just checking in to see if there's any tension in the body. Each of us holds tension in different places. You'll know your spots better than I do. Generally, I look for tension around the eyes, the jaw, the shoulders. And if there is tension, just bringing awareness to it, not trying to make it a problem. It's our first opportunity to bring a no big deal attitude to what's going on in the body. Flex that equanimity muscle. And then finally, a few calming breaths. And our guidance here, borrowed from the sage Beastie Boys, is slow and low. That's our tempo. Breathing in slow through the nose allows us to breathe lower and into the belly. And then, if possible, pausing and extending or accentuating the exhale. When we breathe in this way, it's a clue to the body that it's okay to move into the rest and relaxation side of things. And then why the nose? Why breathing in through the nose? It's one way for us to slow down that breath and then give us a little bit of sort of resistance as we breathe back out, extending and accentuating the exhale. And for many, this right here, this sitting and knowing that you're sitting, is where they like to remain in an entire sit. So just marking this as a waypoint. You can always come back to this place. You can treat any of my prompts or anything I say as just sort of background noise. After all, it's all an invitation. You can always RSVP no. So if you're on board with where we're headed tonight, just sitting and allowing ourselves to be is the starting point. And then if you notice that you're pushing on something or holding on to something, so you find a rhythm in the breath and it feels really good and you're kind of holding on to that, like, I don't want to let that go. Just noticing that. Don't have to do anything with it. Just noticing. Or if you get a bit of knee pain, or maybe there's a noise in the environment around you, notice if you're pushing away on that, or how could they do that? Maybe is the inner talk that is a reaction to that. Sometimes the pressing becomes this sort of prosecutorial voice in inner talk. Don't they know this is my time? Again, not doing anything with that. And it is your time too, by the way, but just not doing anything with it, allowing it to be. And we can always fall back to the instructions around do nothing, the actual do nothing practice, the technique. Just allowing our attention to roam and range wherever we want, or wherever it wants. And when we notice that we're shaping or directing the attention, we let that go. So hopefully some of that lands for you, and I'll let you explore that. So at this point, you might be aware of the sort of cascades that happen where you notice that you're holding on to something, or you notice that you're pushing or leaning into something. And in the noticing, there's a kickback or a cascade to a feeling sense in the body, and maybe some internal talk, maybe even some mental images. And then that can then cascade into another series of internal talk and images. And we can find ourselves sort of in a little bit of this distant spiral from where we were. So we can just notice that we're doing that. And in the noticing, that's that pop out moment where we can pop out of the cascade. Again, we can always evaluate our sit and tweak what we're doing if we need a little more support. Again, use a home base or shift in some way. All right, you got this. Keep going. And just a quick reminder to check in on the posture. Again, we don't need the posture to be perfect, but comfortable. Something that will help support our concentration, clarity, equanimity, and care. And if you're in a posture that isn't bringing comfort, feel free to change and shift that posture. So as we prepare to shift into our friendliness practice, just a reminder too that if you aren't used to sitting for 20 or 25 minutes, that you can shift and adjust your posture for this. And as we are getting closer and closer to harvest time, I thought I would do a little bit of a spin on a loving kindness exercise that Brian Lesage often leads. And I think I've done this on the Do Nothing Project, where it's this idea of sort of giving gifts or giving bouquets of flowers to people. But I'm going to offer a loving kindness guidance around sort of giving people their hard-earned harvest. So if you want to imagine that in a cornucopia that you see during Thanksgiving time or harvest time, totally fine. So just bringing together some images of some folks that you may want to offer well wishes to. Maybe this is someone that you recently brought and helped get settled in at university, or a friend, and just offering we can begin with offering phrases, and if you like to use the visuals of giving gifts, giving harvest gifts to them, you can do that too, or you can do it at the same time. So often folks they'll achieve something and then move on to the next thing, and they're not positioned to let it all soak in. So harvest time is a perfect time to let accomplishments and hard work soak in. So a few phrases that come to mind that I'll offer. May you see the fruits of your hard work. May harvesting your good deeds be easy. May you take time to enjoy what you've accomplished. And sometimes the phrases won't resonate, so you can always tweak them. And you can tweak it a little bit too and go a little more on the nose. And so maybe you enjoy the fruits of your labor. May you rest as harvest approaches. May you feel what you've accomplished. And if you're a more visual person and you like the visual side of this, you can always sort of tweak the visualization so it sort of is a gift from you, sort of from the warm heart center of your well wishes for them, to them. We're extending that. And just the act of trying to warm up to this is a benefit. And if there's another person that comes to mind, rotate to them. And maybe they're beginning their journey, so it's, may you know the seeds you've planted will come to be harvested. May you trust in the process. May you find the light you need to keep going. And not proclamations by any stretch of the imagination, but just well wishes. extending the bounty of your warm harvest, allowing you to see that they receive it. Maybe even imagine a smile, a sort of wordless nod in appreciation. And then briefly, with the time we have left, seeing if we can extend it wider. Open the aperture of our warmth, extending it to our community, the Do Nothing Project, and vicariously extending that warm harvest out through every member of the Do Nothing Project's community. And that, I always think of the ripple effect, but maybe that's doesn't resonate with everyone. May you trust in the process. May you find the light to keep going. May you know the seeds you planted will be harvested. And if you can hear sort of voices or thanks of people, that's another way to bring a little richness to the visualization. And if just the repetition of the phrases is all that resonates with you, that's totally fine. So big secular humanities bow to everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being part of the community. Yeah, thank you. You're very welcome, Kent. Hopefully we didn't have any need for moderation. Hello to Stephen. I missed saying hello to a bunch of people. Sandra. So hopefully the harvest thing landed for folks. I just kind of came up with that about 10 minutes before we went on. Thinking about sort of the positive side of everything becoming pumpkin at this time of year is there's that sort of metaphor of the season, connecting to the seasonality. I really do enjoy that. So you're super welcome, Trisha and Sarah and Angie. Oh, great. Okay. Mao said that resonated with harvest imagery. Oh, you're very welcome, Linda. So again, if you joined, I'm not sure if any folks joined late. So I'm going to be the guest host for like probably 3/4 of October. I know that, so normally we would probably have me as a guest host around Canadian Thanksgiving anyway, if that's on the 10th. But so I'll be here. Thank you, Emily. I was smitten with my just RSVP no. So I'll be here next week. And then Jeff was going to talk a little bit about boundaries, and that's a little bit of where I was going with the practice tonight, but not in like a well, I'm sure Jeff will do something on that at some point here in the near future. And then so next week I'm gonna do something I think I'm gonna call something and nothing. I used to do after, or I played around with about 2 years ago doing contrast sits where I would do guidance where we would have some technique and then we would contrast that with no technique, and so that's where the something and nothing is coming from here. So Brooke and Angie and Gabrielle, Sarah F. I know sat often on those sits back then, so that's kind of what I'm hedging my bets towards. A couple folks had reached out to me on Instagram, so that is a place where you can reach out, and they had some very encouraging words. So thank you to those folks. You know who you are. I appreciated that. So you are, if you are wondering about how will we get news out about things, the newsletter at jeffwarren.org is one way that you would find out that I was the guest today. So if you sign up for the newsletter, that's another way for us to get information to you. It is very respectfully sent out once a week on Saturday with who's going to be the guide on Sunday. So that's one thing. And then of course it's a new month, which means a new theme for the CEC. So you can check that out at CEC Meditate. They have a meditation tomorrow night. There's a newsletter for that as well. And you can always sign up for that. I think there's an archive, so if you go to cec.com, you can go to the archive and see what the theme is for this month. And then Patreon for the Consciousness Explorers podcast. You can find out more information about the Consciousness Explorers podcast at explorers.fm. So that, I think, is all of our announcements. I do think that the meditation retreat that Jeff is leading in North Carolina is potentially full, but I don't know for sure. So you can go to jeffwarren.org, and I think it's jeffwarren.org/events maybe. And that's where you'll find more information about that. But I think that is up. Not totally sure on that. What else? I think that's it. Yeah, I told my girlfriend I was going to try to talk less. I don't know if I've done that, but 37 minutes, I think I'm under what I normally do. I don't, Ruthless Crab, I think you are correct. It is not being offered virtually. I do not think there is a virtual offer for that, and I can't get back to chat. But so yes, sorry about that. I do know that for a chunk of the meditation retreat on that Saturday. I think it was Saturday or Sunday. I don't remember now. All right. So again, like I said last time, this is the beginning of my week. So I will extend to you an excellent beginning of your week, and I will see you here next week. Oh, Jewel Girl. I am Lenards on Instagram. Lenards. Oh, that's great to hear, Laura. All right. Yeah. So ciao. And I will see you next week.